We are Be Well Health and Wellness Consultants, and we're inviting you into our toughest and most honest conversations with each other.
We believe in honest, educated, science-based health promotion and that everyone should have access to this kind of information.
Tune in to hear our hearts for you as we uncover the not-so-pretty side of the health and wellness industry on the Healthy is Hard podcast. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Healthy is Hard podcast. Today, Tony and I are coming to you with a listener-requested episode, which is very exciting. It is our first one that was actually requested by some of our listeners. So shout out to Makayla. If you are listening to this one's for you, girl. She sent us a message and asked about lemon water. Now, I mentioned it probably, in a previous episode, touching on the fact that it can support kidney health. So today we are going to dive into the realm of kidney health, preventing chronic kidney disease, and other ways to ensure kidney health and reduce your risk of kidney stones as well, because there are lots and lots of painful complications that come along with kidney disease. So we're going to start with what the kidneys actually do. So Tony, you hopefully remember when I kind of explained the liver and the kidneys as those like strainers that you use in the kitchen. Cool. Okay. So that's really what we're looking at. The kidney is your filtration system. If you have a Keurig, those little pods that you put in that are like the filter part, that's what your kidneys do. You have a Brita water filter, the filter part, that's what your kidneys do. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. The Brita is actually a very good analogy because your kidneys utilize the liquid that you intake and they excrete them and actually utilize a lot of that fluid that we're taking in to excrete toxins. Okay, so we all know that a lot of our waste is excreted through our urine, and all of that happens inside of the kidneys. It is pretty intense, so we're not going to get too far into the actual anatomy of how everything in the kidney works. Today, we're going to talk more about supporting health of it, because truly, as the listener, that's really all you need to know. If you're more interested in the specifics, go ahead and check out the show notes. We have a ton of really great research in there today. You might be a little overwhelmed. Like, there are a lot of links that are going in there, but hopefully they help you dive a bit deeper in, and a couple of them I actually will share with you throughout the episode are pictures that do a really great job of explaining kind of the steps where these interventions take place, and some really good recommendations specific for foods that you maybe should be keeping an eye on, either to increase intake of or decrease intake of. So all of that coming up. Make sure you listen to the end. Tons of information here. Okay, so the other thing I want you to know about the kidneys is that they require a really high blood flow volume based on their size. So kidneys are really pretty small for the massive impact they have on our bodies. There are two. They're on either side. There are lots of things that connect to them, but they are shaped like beans. That's actually where kidney beans got their name from. So they have that kind of, you know what a kidney bean looks like, right? It's almost like a long C shape. And so that's what we're looking at. They are, again, very small in relation to some other organs and their required blood flow. So keep that in mind for later. It's going to be important. We're going to come back and touch on it. So kidney function and kidney disease is not very often talked about. If you're listening, I want you to send me a message and tell me how often, or if you've ever even heard of kidney disease. It is definitely an epidemic. It's really right up there with heart disease, cancer, all kinds of other chronic illnesses. And one of the main reasons for that, especially in America, is because we have a exponentially high protein diet by and large overall. Okay. So the kidneys are really some of the only things that actually filter out and kind of process that protein. So when we have too much, our kidneys get overloaded, they get overwhelmed, and they get hurt. Okay, you can actually cause acute kidney injury by eating too much protein. It is really a very fine line in something that I believe needs to be talked about more because we aren't aware of the risk. A lot of times, I'll have Tony speak on this because, especially when we're talking about exercise and nutrition, people have a ginormous misconception that a, like a I don't even know what word to use for it. A ridiculous amount of protein is needed in order to fuel your muscles after a workout to make it worth any good. Um, so I know from the nutrition standpoint that that is not necessarily true, but from the muscular and kind of physical anatomical viewpoint, what does that turn gears in your head for?
When it comes to the consumption of the protein and the amounts that we do, you definitely, like you said, can put risk to that kidney failure and all that bad stuff. And it's another thing that people sleep on also is creatine, with causing the kidney stones as well. Now, when you mention kidney stones happening from the intake of creatine in a lot of mostly athletes, it comes with their water intake as well. Because if you're not drinking the sufficient amount of water to keep that filtration essentially going, that's when it starts to cause further problems. And if you want to relay that back to the whole exercise in general with kidney disease, there's two different ways to look from it. You have pre-kidney disease and you have during the kidney disease. And just like any general fitness guideline, getting your basic, I guess, basic everyday exercise for the minutes that are recommended. Any physical activity, any exercise is going to help lower that risk of kidney disease, keeping your blood pressure at a norm and keeping all your vitals at what they should be. Now, when it comes to currently having the kidney disease, that's when me as a trainer and you as the person with the disease, if you did have it and you're listening, is you need to take it day by day and really read your baseline. So if I know you have kidney disease or any kidney failure and you're trying to get some sort of physical activity in, I'm not going to tell you to just start doing sprints. If you're having trouble getting out of bed because you're fatigued from that, all right, I'm going to have you repeatedly do that same motion so you can strengthen that. So if you're having trouble getting out of bed, I might have you do 3 sets of 10 of you literally sitting up from you laying down. It's almost to that side of the occupational therapy. The whole point of anybody with sort of disease, it could be with autoimmunities as well, as all these diseases affect our physical abilities and activities on the daily. That's just plain simple. And so you need to find a way to keep functional, essentially. So if you're having trouble vacuuming, all right, you need to grab maybe a lighter vacuum and do the same motion. Your body can strengthen and build from those repetitions of the motions that you're used to. And I can preach that with like deadlifts. I tell everybody it's all in the hips. If you have kids and you're chasing them around, you go down and grab them, you should be bending at your hips, not all back straight legs. If you have problems tying your shoe, I'm going to have you bend down and try to grab your shoe and tie it and go back up. So it's little incremental exercises and just activities to keep you in the daily motion, because your main goal, if you have that kidney disease, is to keep your strength and your functionality up, because that's very, very going to affect how well you feel throughout the day.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's really interesting. This makes me feel very thankful that we have Tony as that kind of corrective exercise specialty to be able to tell us, hey, like there are, of course, different phases of life and you need different phases of movement for that. I know, especially he mentioned the autoimmune type of stuff, and we'll have an additional episode on that because if you are listening and you have an autoimmune disorder, you know how absolutely life altering it can be. Like he said, even tying your shoes or getting up out of bed in the morning can be a real task. And that's something that we both have real compassion for, is those invisible illnesses, because people just don't realize how difficult it makes day-to-day life. And kidney disease can actually do the same thing. Like he said, renal fatigue is one of the most detrimental, in my opinion, having seen kind of different phases of fatigue in the chronic illness realm. And I don't know, it's hard because it's one of those things. Kidney disease almost every time can be prevented, but we don't talk about it enough to know that it's such a serious issue or even to know how to prevent it. So that's why we're diving into what we're diving into today. Is just to start the conversation. Of course, genetics always play a role in everything that we talk about. And so do, environment and, what you're putting on and in your body. There's a whole range of factors that affect this. However, for kidneys, there are actually some really specific things that you can do to support kidney function and reduce your risk of developing any type of complication that has to do with the kidneys. So I want to start with maybe something that you should not try, kind of debunk a couple myths, and then move into, at the end, the foods that are best for supporting kidney health and reducing your risk of kidney disease. So in my research for this, I went a little out of the box and we did a little bit of research on autophagy. Now, you may have heard autophagy before if you are interested in intermittent fasting. I'm having a hard time with words today. Intermittent fasting is often done for the main benefit of autophagy. Now, this process is broken down literally into auto, which means it happens, automatically. It just does. It happens. And phagy, the last part of that, the root means to eat. So your body is just eating, and it's eating dead cells. Okay, so scar tissue, wounds, autophagy is incredibly helpful in wound healing because it's eating away those dead cells and allowing new ones to come in and be formed. So autophagy does happen base level all the time in our bodies. However, the impact of it is sometimes negligible, especially right after we've eaten, because your body is focusing on digesting those foods, absorbing those nutrients, doing other things, and not focused on that kind of cell cleanup. That's what they call it, is kind of like the garbage disposal for your body, is that autophagy process, because it's eating and getting rid of that tissue that your body doesn't need anymore. Now, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, oh, that sounds great, like it should eat all of the bad cells in our body, right? Well, yes and no. The other thing that autophagy does is actually provide energy. So, moving into how it interacts with kidney health here. It could be potentially therapeutic because when you have kidney disease, it's actually related to essentially dead cells that are part of the kidney. There's lots of scientific names for those cells, but essentially they become damaged or die off. And so autophagy eats them up, gets rid of them, and then your kidney can function a little bit better, kind of clears it out. Again, another natural detoxification process of the body. How cool are our bodies that we don't need detox teas? But, big but here. Autophagy could actually potentially feed the vasculature of tumors. What that means is that the process of autophagy can provide energy to the building of the vessels that connect tumors to blood supply that allow them to grow. So, I have actually done intermittent fasting in the past for the benefit of autophagy. This is full transparency here, because I had heard that autophagy was beneficial in cancer or preventing cancer because it eats those bad cells. I was not informed of the other side, of course, because intermittent fasting, when you get down to the root of it, is a diet. And so I heard the beneficial side of it. But this research is showing that there are potentially very negative impacts when it comes to cancer and autophagy, and especially amplifying the effects of autophagy when you fast. So I don't say that to scare you, but it shouldn't be an all or nothing thing. It should not be an extreme thing. Like I said, autophagy is an underlying process, just like kidney filtration is an underlying process. It's always happening. However, when you fast from food, you allow that process to exponentially increase. Again, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. So, we need to make sure that we're using it in moderation as a tool, just like everything else. It is not a Swiss Army knife, okay? It's a hammer. It has a specific job and it can do a really great job. But if you have specific risk factors, you have to be aware of that so you don't bang your finger with the hammer. Okay? So just be wary of that. I know personally I have fallen victim to it. This is a very popular diet for things like that. Autophagy is also very good at eating bacteria and viruses. So, again, that is a really great benefit of it. So, every once in a while, maybe doing an extended fast one day a month. And I'm talking like not 24 hours, I'm talking like maybe hold off until like lunch or dinner to eat. That's what I consider a healthy period of extended fasting. I also get hangry, and if any of you all do, it's just literally not enjoyable to do that. And so there are plenty of other things that we can add to make our bodies function better instead of taking everything away. Okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just don't like that.
that was the hard thing because I did intermittent fasting also.
Yeah.
Probably didn't eat till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I stopped eating around like 7 or 8.
Okay.
It's the hardest thing is the hunger because you get super hungry. If you're somebody that always eats breakfast, like the first week that you try intermittent fasting will be dreadful. Like that's just a fair warning. But the whole purpose of trying to help yourself and try something new is force and push through it mentally, because if you give up, you're never going to get that full benefit. Maybe one, like you said, one day a week or a month. That's very beneficial as well because your body's not used to it, so it's doing something new.
Absolutely. So that is maybe something else we'll talk about in the future too, if you guys are interested, is kind of how the metabolism sort of cycles, and some good ways to boost it and ways that we actually slow down the metabolism without even realizing it. But yeah, very, very important to be happy while you are on your health journey. Okay, so tying something in that makes you not feel good or makes other people miserable to be around you. I experience that a little bit. If you work with other people, it's probably not as prevalent right now with COVID. However, if you work with people, just know, or live with other people, they probably are not going to like you if you are intermittent fasting. Oh boy. So speaking of the metabolism, actually, autophagy has shown benefit and potential negative outcome. So it could actually induce metabolic stress, which kind of puts the metabolism in a fight or flight stance, and we don't want that. Okay, that's when we start to see bodies holding on to unnecessary weight, fat stores, things like that. But autophagy could also help speed up metabolism in certain people. So I guess it's something that you could try if you want. If you don't mind the potential other side of it, make sure you do it safely with the supervision of a nutrition professional and your doctors to make sure that you are still getting enough nutrients and calories in throughout the day. But just a word to the wise there, sharing all of the data with you because we don't sway one side or the other, we sway on the side of health. And we believe that includes both sides of the story all the time. And I will say that there are many studies out there that show that autophagy does improve immune health. So again, there are pros and cons to everything. However, specifically for me, I know that I probably will not do intermittent fasting for an extended period of time. Anyway, I did it for like a whole winter. Is what I'm talking. It was like a whole season, and it was rough. But I probably won't do that again in the future because you all know that I have an increased risk of cancer. And since autophagy is potentially not a great thing for cancer, I'm going to stay away personally. So if you have a risk of chronic kidney disease, if you've seen it in your family, maybe you want to stay away from this also. Again, if you do want to try it, please, please, please do it safely under the supervision of professionals. So that is our kind of myth buster here for the episode. If you ever hear that that is like a cure-all, just know that it's not. Come back and share this episode with a friend. Next tip here is that flavonoids, and this is all kind of coming from two different articles. So one of them was specifically on autophagy and the effects of it in kidney health, as well as some of those other situations that I mentioned, the cancer and the immune and metabolic kind of impact. They pulled from other articles to share the full picture, which I really appreciated. So that whole article will be linked. And then another one that I found was more in terms of how do we support the kidneys and prevent that process from even happening, even if we have some of the risk factors like diabetes or hypertension, we can still prevent chronic kidney disease with potentially the use of flavonoids. So flavonoids are different groups of antioxidants that come from our fruits and vegetables. They help prevent chronic kidney disease brought on by arterial hypertension, diabetes, oxidative stress, and nephrotoxins. So I just mentioned some of that, and I want to mention before we move on that a nephrotoxin is protein. There are a couple, some endocrine disruptors that we commonly find in perfume, skincare products, body care products. Those can be nephrotoxins as well because, again, the kidneys take them in and try and filter them out. And if they don't know what it is, it's treated as a toxin and a foreign chemical, and they try to hang on to it and figure out what it is. Sometimes that can cause damage. Too much protein can do the exact same thing as a very harmful chemical, okay? The more you know. We've also seen that flavonoids and other antioxidants are very, very beneficial in fighting cancer cells, preventing tumor growth, things like that. So there is a really great image that I'm going to share with you guys that is from this article, and it gives you a full list breakdown of all the different antioxidants, what they look like chemically, which you don't necessarily need to know, the different names of them, and then food sources for each of them. So I will go ahead and fill you in on a tip. When you look at this list, check out the flavanol category. Flavanols are our third most potent is the word that I'm looking for, not popular. Our third most potent anti-inflammatory ingredient, and they come from white pigments in fruits and vegetables. So look out for that one, as well as these flavonoids that we're talking about for fighting cancer and kidney disease. So that is a really, really great one. There is another image there that I will share with you guys that kind of just shows the stage at which the flavonoids come in and actually prevent and stop that process of chronic kidney disease. So just kind of a beneficial thing and seeing how it actually works in practice. Now, the moment you have all been waiting for. What foods can you be eating to support your kidney health? This article is also going to be linked. It is where I tend to get a whole lot of my research from. It is from NIH. They have tons and tons and tons and tons of resources. Okay, so if this episode is piquing your interest, check out this article and go through some of the links. Come back to their resources for kidney health and for kidney disease and knowing your risk. I feel that they provide a lot of really useful and beneficial information that you can do on your own time to really just feel comfortable with your own body. But number one, if you're taking notes, write it down. Number one is that we want to lower our sodium intake. Tony touched on this earlier, which I was really happy about. This is mainly, he touched on this part too, because you want to make sure that you're controlling your blood pressure. Again, those kidneys require a very high blood volume. And if your blood pressure is off, either too high or too low, those kidneys may not get the proper amount of blood flow, which restricts their function, makes them less able to filter out all the bad stuff. And then we start to see buildup of these nutrients, which is where we run into the issue of kidney disease. So you may also want to consider if you have really high blood pressure and your vessels are really constricted, always talk with your doctor first, especially if you are on a blood thinning medication or blood pressure medication. Do not change anything in your diet without talking to your doctor first for risk of drug interaction. Blood pressure medications are very finicky when we talk about nutrition interaction with that. So disclaimer there. But if you are noticing some of that, maybe consider some natural vascular opening ingredients and foods such as capsaicin, which comes from peppers. So red pepper flakes, cayenne pepper is actually the powdered form of capsaicin, and that opens up the blood vessels and lets it flow a little bit more freely throughout. So if that is something you're struggling with, just know that if you're not quite ready to go on a medication, there are some other options. However, you do need to make sure that they are being monitored by medical and nutrition professionals.
Beets are also a great vascular
Mm-hmm.
to eat too. That's another.
Beets are good for everything. They are super high in iron. They have lots of those red and purple antioxidants. And like he just mentioned, they are good for vascular health and opening up some of those constricted blood vessels. So, again, make sure you're eating the rainbow. Learn about new foods. There's good stuff packed in there. Oh, and people are so, side note here, I love beets. People hate on beets so much. Try them different ways, okay? You could even put them in like sweet desserts. You could totally do them in like a zucchini bread style, make something pink. That would be cool. I like pickled beets better than just plain beets, but they're also okay. People think that beets taste like dirt and they don't have to, okay? Play around with it. They have so many nutrients packed in there. So just try them, okay? For me, please. All right, so next up, number 2, please chill out with the protein. Your serving size for protein is, Tony, show them again. You showed them last episode, I think. 3 ounces, okay? He's showing you right there, about the size of your palm. We also like to say about the size of a deck of cards because Tony's palm is obviously a lot bigger than my palm. So that's not always a perfect measure. So we say about the size of a deck of cards. I should have brought one upstairs for you guys. But that right there is about your serving size of protein. That's for chicken, beef, fish, a steak, a hamburger, all of it. Beans are about half a cup serving, nuts are about a quarter cup. Okay, so those are your big serving sizes. Pause this, replay that, and jot down all of those serving sizes. Next time you look at what's on your plate versus what a serving size is, you may be shocked. A chicken breast is not a serving of protein. A fish fillet typically is not. And let me just tell you, the last time I bought Tyler a steak, it was like bigger than my head, I think. And that is the smallest piece of meat that they had in the store. So we cut it into 3 portions to make those 3, sometimes 4-ounce servings. And he got 3 steaks out of the one. Okay, so please don't cook the whole thing at once and eat it and think that like that's your protein for one meal. That's a lot. That is why people have kidney stones and kidney disease. High protein intake is actually one of the leading causes of specifically kidney stones. Frequent, often, and prolonged kidney stone exposure can lead to chronic kidney disease later in life. So just be aware of that. Number 3, we want to make sure that we are consuming unsaturated fats. This again goes back to heart health, because when your heart is healthy and it's able to pump enough blood, then your kidneys therefore will be healthier because they need blood flow to function properly. And unsaturated fats are those quote unquote heart healthy fats that we like to classify them as. We do need a mix of all kinds of fats. However, unsaturated is the one that we want to focus on the majority of our dietary intake coming from. That will typically come from plant sources as opposed to animal sources. We want to make sure, where are we at? 4, that we are moderating our phosphorus intake to support kidney health. High phosphorus foods include meat and fish, beans and lentils, nuts, dairy, bran cereal and oatmeal, as well as dark drinks like soda, tea, juice, anything else that has that kind of dark coloring. Those are high in phosphorus. We want to make sure that we are limiting our intake of those, maybe try and keep it to 1 a day if you already know that your kidneys are at risk. And even if you're not, let's not go overboard, okay? Meat or fish, let's try and do 1 or 2 portions a day. Beans and lentils, same thing. Oatmeal, same thing. Make sure we get a healthy balance of all kinds of different foods. And again, let's make sure that we're getting veggies, fruit, fiber in at every meal to help absorb and kind of distribute some of those nutrients. Number 5 is we want to also moderate our potassium intake. So I don't know if you've heard it yet, come back to this in a second, but sodium, potassium, and phosphorus, those are our main electrolytes, and those are the ones that we want to limit when we're talking about the kidneys, which makes sense because the kidneys are where all of that gets processed. And so if you are hammering them with the protein and the electrolytes and the things that the kidneys are really focused on getting rid of, then you might cause an issue. Okay, so foods that are really high in potassium include dairy again, potatoes and tomatoes, beans and nuts again, oranges and bananas, whole wheat products like bread, pasta, rice, bread, pasta, oatmeal, and then brown and wild rice are high in potassium as well. So again, we want to moderate. I didn't say limit, I didn't say eliminate. Moderate. Let's not have 4 bananas a day and have fish at every meal. First of all, ew. Second of all, it's just too much, okay? There is a point where it just gets to be too much. So let's make sure that we're just keeping an eye on it and being mindful of how much we're taking in. All right, and my final tip here, number 6, which is kind of a bonus. It's not really its own tip, okay? But please stop taking electrolyte supplements or hydration products if you are not losing those electrolytes through large amounts of sweat every day, okay? It's even a different story if, like, last night I was sweating profusely during my cardio kickboxing class, but tonight I'm going to do some strength workout, so I'm not going to be sweating as much. I don't need to have a hydration multiplier or, um, which, first of all, also, that's just not a thing. I mean, you can't really multiply your hydration. You're either hydrated or you're not, because you're either drinking enough water or you're not. That's
Yeah.
the plain and simple of it. That's just a marketing ploy. So be wary of that always, because it's just a money marketing pull. But again, you can overload your kidneys with those, and you just simply don't need them. It's added calories, it's oftentimes added sugar, and you don't need that. A lot of times there is not much health promotion in those products, so I would recommend doing some crushed up or juiced plain fruit, or go buy some pure fruit juice from the store and add it to your water if you don't like the taste of water. These hydration products, to be entirely honest, in my professional opinion, I think they're a waste of money. I think they don't really provide any benefit unless you are for real like a serious athlete and you are losing those electrolytes consistently and you need to replenish your body. Um, it just is one of those things. Every time I see it, I'm like, I roll a little bit because it's super popular right now. Anyway, something else that you can do. This is an extra special bonus tip, and the reason why Makayla asked us to do this episode is lemon water. Lemon water, we want to make sure, first of all, that it is no more than a quarter of a whole lemon in 8 to 12 ounces of water. We don't want to overthrow our body's alkalinity or acidity. We want to make sure we keep that relatively normal. And we know that acid can upset the stomach sometimes, cause that acid reflux. It can cause some sores in the mouth. So we want to make sure that we're limiting to that to 1/4 of a lemon per day. I like to drop that in my water before I go to bed and leave it on my nightstand, and then drink as much of it as I can as soon as I wake up in the morning. What this does is it binds to any calcium that's left over in your kidneys, and it'll help break it apart essentially so that you can get rid of it. Calcium is what binds together to form kidney stones. So if you're drinking that lemon water and breaking apart the calcium deposits, then they will excrete naturally before they ever get to the stage of kidney stone formation. I like to drink it first thing in the morning because my body's already processed all those toxins, and I'm giving it basically an extra clean out and flush first thing in the morning before, the first time I go to the bathroom. Um, Again, helps support that quote unquote cleaned out kidney. It is not a detox, it's literally just putting some fruit in your water. So that is where the lemon water benefit comes in. Lemon water has been hugely popular lately for some reason as a weight loss supplement. The root of that actually comes from the fact that grapefruit may have some effect in regulating insulin and metabolic response, which in turn will aid in weight loss. However, that is grapefruit. It is a different thing. It has an entirely different chemical makeup than lemon. And also, this isn't like a fact, like it does or doesn't. It might help you, it might not. Especially in diabetic and obese patients, they saw a real great benefit in it, but there is much more margin for weight loss in that group of people, as we know as professionals. So lemon water does not make you lose weight. It does not boost your metabolism. It does help support your kidneys. So you can drink it for that reason if you wish. Please don't go and eat a whole ton of grapefruit either. It will not make your stomach feel good. This study that I'm referencing was sharing that a half a grapefruit at breakfast was one group. There were a couple different groups. There was another group that had some grapefruit juice. There was another group that had a grapefruit capsule, and then a control group that did not have anything. So all of the grapefruit groups lost significantly more weight than the control group. I believe it was about 0.3 kilograms of body weight for the control group, and then the lowest, which was the capsule, was about 1.1 kilograms for that group. So that's a significant difference. However, again, we are talking about an obese group, people that do have a significantly larger amount of weight to lose to get within a healthy and functional range. So do with that what you will. But that is our second myth that we're busting to round out this episode. Lemon water, unfortunately, does not burn fat. Nothing burns fat, by the way. There's no magic fat burner thing. That's not how it works. Yeah, so those are my tips for improving your kidney health. I hope you come back and listen to this and take some more notes, because there were lots of juicy details in there. And I know I kind of sped through them a little bit just because there's so much information. So, do you have any questions for me, Tony?
I don't. I think I learned a lot. Because like I said before, when it comes to the exercise, you pretty much just need to get that daily activity, keep your vitals low and at the norm, and try to just prevent it. And then trying to find that functionality if you do happen to have it. It's just fine tuning and programming and specificity based on duration, time, all those good factors into programming for a client with this type of disease. And tying that into the nutrition, once again, trying to find what works, what doesn't work. So
absolutely. Yeah, because it's going to be different from person to person. You may get sick of hearing us say that, but health is truly so individualized, which we think is the cool part about it, but I understand where it can get a little bit frustrating as well. So I hope that some of these tips help you. If you have any additional questions, please write to us. You can leave us a comment. You can leave us a review. We would absolutely love to be able to go back and read those and see what you think of the show. You can also visit our website and leave us a comment there, www.bewellphc.com/podcast. You should be able to go in there and leave us some notes to look after, and we're also always open via Messenger and just waiting to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys. This was a really fun episode. If you have any other listener suggested episodes, write them in, send them to us. We would be happy to cover the topics that you want to hear so that we can help you reach your optimal health. Thanks for your insight, Tony. It's always so appreciated. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.
It was our greatest honor to take up space in your world today. Please share this episode to your social media pages and tag us at BeWellHWC. Cheers to you, friend, for choosing better for yourself starting today. It won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. Subscribe to the show and learn how to make healthy less hard, one tip at a time.